Question 1. During the evaluation of applicant portfolios for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam, the admissions committee discovers that one candidate, despite having strong extracurricular achievements and a compelling personal statement, falls slightly short of the minimum GPA requirement stipulated in the official examination guidelines. The committee is aware of the applicant's potential and the positive impact they could have on the university community. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee to take in this situation, strictly adhering to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations? Option A. Consider the applicant's strong extracurricular achievements and personal statement as mitigating factors to waive the GPA requirement and admit the candidate. Option B. Reject the applicant outright due to the failure to meet the minimum GPA requirement as per the official guidelines. Option C. Allow the applicant to submit additional academic transcripts from other institutions to potentially compensate for the lower GPA. Option D. Seek a recommendation from a faculty member who knows the applicant personally to justify admitting them despite the GPA shortfall. Correct answer is B. Reject the applicant outright due to the failure to meet the minimum GPA requirement as per the official guidelines. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's admission policies with the ethical considerations of fairness and transparency. The admissions committee must adhere strictly to the established criteria, while also ensuring that the evaluation process is unbiased and equitable for all applicants. The integrity of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam process hinges on consistent application of its stated regulations. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's submitted documents against the published admission criteria, focusing on verifiable academic achievements and stated requirements. This aligns with the principle of meritocracy and ensures that all applicants are judged on the same objective standards, as mandated by the university's official entrance exam guidelines. This approach upholds the fairness and transparency expected in academic admissions, preventing arbitrary decisions and maintaining the credibility of the examination process. An incorrect approach that prioritizes personal recommendations over documented qualifications fails to adhere to the established regulatory framework of the entrance exam. This introduces subjectivity and potential bias, undermining the objective assessment process. It deviates from the university's stated criteria, potentially creating an unfair advantage for one applicant over others who meet the requirements through their academic record. Another incorrect approach that involves overlooking minor discrepancies in documentation to accommodate a promising candidate, even if they don't fully meet the stated requirements, violates the principle of equal treatment. The entrance exam regulations are designed to be applied uniformly. Such leniency, without a clear, predefined process for exceptions, can lead to accusations of favoritism and compromise the integrity of the admission process. A further incorrect approach that involves seeking external influence or pressure to alter the evaluation outcome is ethically unsound and directly contravenes the principles of fair assessment. Admissions decisions must be based solely on the applicant's qualifications and adherence to the established examination criteria, not on external lobbying or personal connections. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the governing regulations and policies. This involves meticulously reviewing all submitted materials against these established criteria. When faced with ambiguity, the framework should include consulting official university policy for guidance on interpretation or escalation. The decision-making process must prioritize objectivity, fairness, and adherence to the established rules, ensuring that the integrity of the examination and admission process is maintained. Question 2. System analysis indicates that a prospective applicant for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance examination accidentally receives an email containing what appears to be a significant portion of the upcoming examination questions and answer key. The applicant has not sought this information and is aware that possessing and using such materials would be a violation of the university's academic integrity policy. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action for this applicant? Option A. Immediately report the incident and the received materials to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta Admissions Office or the designated examination authority. Option B. Delete the email and pretend the incident never happened, proceeding with the examination without mentioning the received materials. Option C. Review the leaked materials thoroughly to prepare for the examination, ensuring a higher chance of success. Option D. Forward the email containing the leaked materials to friends who are also applying to AMIKOM University Yogyakarta to help them prepare. The correct answer is A. Immediately report the incident and the received materials to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta admissions office or the designated examination authority. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta's entrance examination framework, specifically concerning the ethical implications of academic integrity and the proper use of university resources. Applicants must navigate a situation where they have access to potentially sensitive information and must decide how to proceed without violating established rules or ethical standards. Careful judgment is required to balance the desire to perform well with the obligation to adhere to the examination's integrity. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves recognizing the confidential nature of the examination materials and reporting the unauthorized access to the appropriate university authority. This aligns with the core principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct expected of all AMIKOM University Yogyakarta students. Specifically, it upholds the university's regulations regarding the security of examination content and the prohibition of unauthorized disclosure or use of such materials. By reporting the incident, the applicant acts responsibly, allowing the university to address the security breach and maintain the fairness of the entrance examination for all candidates. This demonstrates a commitment to ethical behavior and respect for the examination process. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that involves reviewing the leaked materials to gain an unfair advantage directly violates the principles of academic honesty and the specific regulations of AMIKOM University Yogyakarta concerning examination integrity. This action constitutes academic misconduct, as it seeks to benefit from unauthorized access to proprietary information, undermining the fairness of the entrance process. An approach that involves sharing the leaked materials with other prospective applicants is also a severe ethical and regulatory failure. This not only perpetuates academic dishonesty, but also actively compromises the integrity of the examination for a wider group of candidates, potentially leading to widespread unfairness and a breach of trust with the university. An approach that involves ignoring the leaked materials and proceeding with the examination as if nothing happened, while seemingly neutral, fails to address a critical breach of security and ethical conduct. It implicitly condones the unauthorized access and potential misuse of information, and it misses an opportunity to uphold the university's standards of integrity by not reporting the incident. This passive approach can be seen as a failure to act responsibly when faced with a clear ethical dilemma. Professional reasoning. Professionals in academic settings, including prospective students, should adopt a framework that prioritizes integrity, honesty, and adherence to established rules. When faced with a situation involving potential academic misconduct or breaches of security, the decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the ethical and regulatory implications of the situation. 2. Consulting relevant university policies and guidelines, in this case, AMIKOM University Yogyakarta's entrance exam regulations. 3. Choosing the course of action that best upholds academic integrity and fairness, which often involves reporting the issue to the appropriate authorities. This proactive and ethical stance is crucial for maintaining a trustworthy and equitable academic environment. Question 3. Performance analysis shows that a prospective student applying to AMIKOM University Yogyakarta has a slightly lower GPA than the average admitted student, but has participated in several extracurricular activities that demonstrate leadership potential. During the application process, the student is considering whether to slightly embellish their role in a student organization to appear more impactful or to focus solely on their verifiable academic achievements and accurately describe their extracurricular involvement. Option A. Omit any mention of less significant extracurricular activities to focus solely on academic performance, hoping the GPA will be the primary deciding factor. Option B. Seek to gain an informal advantage by mentioning personal connections to university faculty within the application essay. Option C. Inflate the description of their role in the student organization to emphasize leadership qualities and make their application appear stronger. Option D. Accurately describe all academic achievements and extracurricular involvement, highlighting leadership roles and responsibilities truthfully, and providing any supporting evidence if requested. Correct answer is D. Accurately describe all academic achievements and extracurricular involvement, highlighting leadership roles and responsibilities truthfully, and providing any supporting evidence if requested. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only academic aptitude, but also an understanding of ethical conduct and adherence to university regulations during the admission process. The pressure to secure a place at a reputable institution like AMIKOM University Yogyakarta can lead to temptations to misrepresent information. Careful judgment is required to navigate these pressures ethically and legally. The correct approach involves honest and accurate self-reporting of academic achievements and personal circumstances. This aligns with the core ethical principles of integrity and honesty expected of all students and professionals. AMIKOM University Yogyakarta, like any academic institution, relies on the truthfulness of applicant information to make fair and informed admission decisions. Adhering to the stated application guidelines and providing verifiable documentation is paramount. This approach upholds the university's commitment to academic integrity and ensures a fair playing field for all applicants. An incorrect approach of exaggerating academic achievements, such as inflating grades or claiming participation in activities not undertaken, constitutes academic dishonesty. This violates the fundamental ethical principle of truthfulness and directly contravenes university regulations regarding the accuracy of application information. Such misrepresentation undermines the admission process and can lead to severe consequences, including immediate disqualification and potential future academic repercussions. Another incorrect approach of withholding relevant information, such as failing to disclose a prior academic disciplinary record or a significant gap in education without a valid explanation, is also ethically problematic. While not an outright fabrication, it is a form of deception by omission. This failure to be fully transparent prevents the admissions committee from making a comprehensive assessment of the applicant's suitability, potentially leading to an admission decision based on incomplete and misleading information. This breaches the expectation of full disclosure inherent in any application process. A further incorrect approach of seeking to influence the admission decision through inappropriate means, such as offering personal favors or attempting to bypass standard procedures, is unethical and potentially illegal. This undermines the merit-based system of admissions and violates principles of fairness and equal opportunity. Such actions create an unfair advantage and compromise the integrity of the entire admission process. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a clear commitment to integrity, honesty, and adherence to established rules and guidelines. Applicants should always prioritize truthfulness in their applications, provide accurate and verifiable information, and seek clarification if any part of the application process is unclear. Understanding and respecting the university's regulations and ethical standards is crucial for a successful and ethical admission journey. Question 4. System analysis indicates that a candidate for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam, who narrowly missed the minimum score in one section, has a strong extracurricular profile and a compelling personal statement detailing significant community involvement. The admissions committee is considering admitting this candidate based on their overall potential and non-academic achievements, despite not meeting the specific score threshold for that section, as defined in the official entrance exam guidelines. Which of the following represents the most professionally sound approach according to the regulatory framework for university entrance exams in Indonesia? Option A. Admitting the candidate based on their strong extracurricular profile and personal statement, as these demonstrate qualities beyond test scores that are valuable to the university. Option B. Recommending the candidate for a special review by a higher committee to assess their potential for admission, provided they submit additional documentation supporting their community involvement and explain the reasons for their lower score in that section. Option C. Offering the candidate a place in a preparatory program that they must successfully complete before being eligible for regular admission to the university. Option D. Rejecting the candidate outright due to failure to meet the minimum score requirement in the specified section of the entrance exam, as per the established admission criteria. The correct answer is A. Admitting the candidate based on their strong extracurricular profile and personal statement, as these demonstrate qualities beyond test scores that are valuable to the university. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in university admissions, balancing the desire to admit promising candidates with the need to adhere strictly to established admission criteria and processes. The professional challenge lies in maintaining fairness, transparency, and integrity throughout the selection process, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated consistently and that decisions are based on objective merit, as defined by AMIKOM University Yogyakarta's entrance exam regulations. Deviating from these regulations, even with good intentions, can undermine the credibility of the admissions process and lead to accusations of bias or favoritism. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's performance against the established criteria for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam, as outlined in the university's official admission guidelines and any relevant Ministry of Education regulation for higher education admissions in Indonesia. This approach prioritizes adherence to the defined academic and administrative requirements, ensuring that the decision is justifiable and defensible. The regulatory justification stems from the principle of equal opportunity and fair treatment for all applicants, which is a cornerstone of educational admissions. Decisions must be based on the documented evidence of an applicant's qualifications and performance in the entrance examination, as stipulated by the university's internal policies and national educational standards. An incorrect approach would be to bypass the standard evaluation process based on a personal recommendation or a perceived exceptional circumstance without proper documentation or adherence to established appeal or special consideration procedures. This fails to uphold the principle of fairness and equal treatment, as it introduces subjective bias and deviates from the objective criteria set forth in the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam framework. Such an action could be seen as a violation of the university's admission regulations and potentially national guidelines governing higher education admissions, leading to a loss of trust in the admissions committee and the university. Another incorrect approach would be to admit the candidate based on a promise of future contributions or potential, without meeting the current, clearly defined entrance requirements. This prioritizes speculative future outcomes over present qualifications, which is contrary to the purpose of an entrance examination designed to assess readiness for university-level study. This approach undermines the integrity of the selection process and sets a precedent that could lead to further deviations from established standards. The professional decision-making process in such situations requires a commitment to transparency, fairness, and adherence to established rules. Professionals must first understand the specific regulations and guidelines governing the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam. They should then objectively assess the applicant's profile against these criteria. If there are ambiguities or potential grounds for special consideration, these should be addressed through the formal channels and procedures outlined in the university's policies, ensuring that any exceptions are well documented and justified according to the established framework. The ultimate decision must be rooted in the regulations and the evidence presented, maintaining the integrity of the admissions process. Question 5. System analysis indicates that during the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam review process, a committee member notices that a candidate's submitted portfolio, while containing impressive projects, slightly deviates from the specified format guidelines outlined in the official exam documentation. The committee member is aware of the candidate's strong academic record from their high school. What is the most appropriate course of action for the committee member to ensure strict adherence to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam's regulatory framework and guidelines? Option A. Suggest that the candidate be given an opportunity to resubmit their portfolio with the correct formatting before the final evaluation, even if this is not explicitly permitted by the exam guidelines. Option B. Immediately disqualify the candidate due to the explicit deviation from the specified format guidelines, regardless of the portfolio's content or the candidate's academic background. Option C. Flag the deviation to the examination board for a formal decision, ensuring that any action taken is in strict accordance with the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam's established rules and procedures for handling such discrepancies. Option D. Recommend the candidate for admission based on their strong academic record and impressive portfolio, assuming the minor formatting deviation is inconsequential given the overall quality. The correct answer is D. Recommend the candidate for admission based on their strong academic record and impressive portfolio, assuming the minor formatting deviation is inconsequential given the overall quality. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in the context of university admissions, specifically for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam. The core difficulty lies in balancing the university's need to attract qualified students with the ethical imperative of ensuring a fair and transparent admissions process, adhering strictly to the established regulatory framework and guidelines for this specific exam. Misinterpreting or misapplying these guidelines can lead to accusations of bias, unfairness, and a breach of academic integrity, potentially damaging the university's reputation and the validity of its entrance examination. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and strict adherence to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam's specific regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines. This means prioritizing the established criteria for assessment, ensuring all candidates are evaluated based on the same objective standards, and avoiding any subjective influences or preferential treatment. This approach is ethically sound and professionally justifiable because it upholds the principles of fairness, equity, and meritocracy that are fundamental to any reputable educational institution's admissions process. It ensures that the selection of candidates is based on their demonstrated abilities and potential, as defined by the exam's parameters, thereby maintaining the integrity of the entrance examination and the university's academic standards. An incorrect approach would be to deviate from the specified regulatory framework by introducing external factors or personal biases into the evaluation process. For instance, prioritizing candidates based on personal connections or perceived future potential without explicit guidelines within the exam framework constitutes an ethical failure. This undermines the principle of equal opportunity and can lead to the admission of less qualified candidates, compromising academic quality. Another incorrect approach would be to interpret the guidelines in a manner that favors a particular group of applicants, even if unintentionally. This violates the regulatory requirement for impartiality and can result in discriminatory practices, which are ethically unacceptable and legally problematic. A third incorrect approach might involve overlooking minor discrepancies in candidate applications that are explicitly addressed by the exam's guidelines, under the guise of flexibility. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a failure to uphold the established rules, potentially creating loopholes that could be exploited and compromising the fairness of the process. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a systematic review of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam's official regulatory framework and guidelines. When faced with ambiguity or a novel situation, professionals should seek clarification from the relevant examination authorities rather than making assumptions. The decision-making process should be guided by a commitment to transparency, fairness, and adherence to established procedures, ensuring that all actions taken are defensible under the specific regulations governing the entrance exam. Question 6. Process analysis reveals that an applicant for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam is seeking to understand the specific documentation requirements for their application. They have encountered various sources of information online, including unofficial student forums, general university admission guides, and anecdotal advice from friends who attended different institutions. The applicant is unsure which source to trust to ensure full compliance with the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta's specific entrance exam regulations. Option A. Rely on information shared in popular Indonesian student online forums, assuming that common practices across universities will apply to AMIKOM. Option B. Ask friends who have successfully applied to other universities in Yogyakarta for their documentation lists, assuming similarities in requirements. Option C. Contact the official AMIKOM University Yogyakarta admissions office directly to request a comprehensive list of required documents and clarification on submission procedures. Option D. Interpret general university admission advice found on international educational websites as a guide, believing that core documentation principles are universal. The correct answer is C. Contact the official AMIKOM University Yogyakarta admissions office directly to request a comprehensive list of required documents and clarification on submission procedures. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only an understanding of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam's regulatory framework, but also the ability to apply ethical principles in a simulated admissions context. The pressure to secure admission can lead to ethically compromised decisions if not guided by strict adherence to established guidelines. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between legitimate information gathering and potentially manipulative or misleading practices. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves proactively seeking clarification directly from the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta admissions office regarding specific requirements and procedures. This demonstrates a commitment to transparency, integrity, and adherence to the official regulatory framework governing the entrance exam. It aligns with ethical principles of honesty and fairness, ensuring that the applicant's understanding is based on authoritative information, thereby preventing misinterpretations or the use of unsubstantiated advice. This method directly addresses the need to operate strictly within the specified jurisdiction of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam. Incorrect approaches analysis. Seeking advice from unofficial online forums or social media groups, even if they claim to be affiliated with AMIKOM University Yogyakarta, is an incorrect approach. This fails to adhere to the strict jurisdictional requirement because such sources are not part of the official regulatory framework and may provide inaccurate, outdated, or misleading information. Relying on these sources introduces a significant risk of violating exam guidelines or misunderstanding critical procedures, leading to potential disqualification. Ethically, it represents a failure to exercise due diligence in obtaining information from authoritative channels. Interpreting general university admission advice found on non-AMIKOM-specific educational websites as directly applicable to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam is also an incorrect approach. This violates the strict jurisdictional compliance mandate by referencing external, non-specific frameworks. The entrance exam for AMIKOM University Yogyakarta will have its own unique set of regulations and guidelines that may differ significantly from general advice. This approach risks misapplying rules and procedures, undermining the integrity of the application process, and potentially leading to non-compliance. Assuming that the admission process for AMIKOM University Yogyakarta is identical to that of other universities in Indonesia or elsewhere is an incorrect approach. This directly contravenes the requirement to follow only the regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines specified for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam. Each university, and indeed each specific entrance exam, operates under its own distinct set of rules. This assumption can lead to critical errors in preparation and application, demonstrating a lack of respect for the specific jurisdiction and its unique requirements. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing similar situations should adopt a systematic approach. First, identify the specific jurisdiction and regulatory framework governing the situation. Second, prioritize obtaining information directly from official, authoritative sources within that jurisdiction. Third, critically evaluate any external information for its relevance and accuracy within the specified framework. Finally, always err on the side of caution and seek clarification from official channels when in doubt, ensuring all actions are compliant and ethically sound. Question 7. Cost-benefit analysis shows that implementing an AI-powered plagiarism detection system for all student submissions at AMIKOM University Yogyakarta could significantly reduce faculty workload and improve academic integrity, but also raises concerns about potential data privacy issues and the accuracy of AI in diverse academic contexts. Considering the regulatory framework of Indonesia, which approach best balances these factors? Option A. Conduct a pilot program with a limited number of departments, focusing on rigorous testing of the AI's accuracy and developing comprehensive data privacy protocols in consultation with legal experts and student representatives before wider rollout. Option B. Prioritize the cost savings and workload reduction, assuming that any data privacy issues can be resolved through standard IT security measures without specific student consent. Option C. Reject the AI system entirely due to the potential for data breaches and algorithmic bias, relying solely on existing manual detection methods. Option D. Implement the AI system immediately to gain a competitive edge and address plagiarism proactively, with a plan to address data privacy concerns as they arise. The correct answer is D. Implement the AI system immediately to gain a competitive edge and address plagiarism proactively, with a plan to address data privacy concerns as they arise. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate perceived benefits of a new technology with potential long-term ethical and regulatory implications, particularly within the context of an educational institution like AMIKOM University Yogyakarta. The decision-maker must consider not only efficiency gains, but also data privacy, academic integrity, and compliance with Indonesian educational and data protection laws. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any adopted technology aligns with the university's mission and values, and does not inadvertently create new risks or disadvantages for students or staff. The correct approach involves a comprehensive evaluation that prioritizes student welfare and data security, adhering strictly to the principles of the Indonesian Law on Personal Data Protection, UPDP, and relevant regulations from the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, KenningtonCollege. This approach necessitates a thorough risk assessment, including potential biases in AI algorithms, the security of student data, and the impact on pedagogical methods. It also requires transparent communication with stakeholders, and ensuring that any implementation is preceded by clear policy development and ethical guidelines, aligning with the spirit of responsible innovation in education. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering data privacy risks would fail to comply with UPDP, which mandates consent, purpose limitation, and security measures for personal data processing. This could lead to significant legal penalties and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes rapid adoption for competitive advantage, overlooking the need for thorough testing and ethical review, risks introducing biased assessment tools or compromising academic integrity, violating principles of fairness and equity expected in higher education, and potentially contravening guidelines from KenningtonCollege regarding fair assessment practices. A third incorrect approach that ignores the need for student consent and transparency regarding data usage would directly violate UPDP and erode trust between the university and its students. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core problem or opportunity, then systematically researching relevant regulations and ethical guidelines specific to the Indonesian educational sector. This involves consulting legal counsel and relevant government bodies, conducting thorough impact assessments, including ethical, social, and technical aspects, and engaging in stakeholder consultation. The decision should then be based on a robust justification that demonstrates alignment with legal requirements, ethical principles, and the university's strategic objectives, with a clear plan for mitigation of identified risks. Question 8. The control framework reveals that the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance examination process is designed to objectively assess candidates' aptitude for higher education. A prominent alumnus, with significant influence within the university's stakeholder network, has informally expressed a strong desire for their relative, who is a candidate in the current examination, to be admitted. This relative's performance in the examination, while satisfactory, is not among the top-tier results. The admissions committee is aware of the alumnus's interest and the relative's performance, which approach best aligns with the established control framework and ethical principles for university admissions. Option A. Decline to consider the candidate's application, citing the potential for perceived bias due to the familial connection, even if their scores meet the minimum requirements. Option B. Conduct a thorough and impartial review of the candidate's examination, results against all established admission criteria, ensuring that the decision is based solely on merit and adherence to university policy, irrespective of external influence. Option C. Discreetly adjust the scoring or evaluation parameters for the candidate to ensure their admission, citing a need to foster strong relationships with influential alumni. Option D. Prioritize the candidate's admission based on the alumnus's expressed interest, overriding the standard evaluation process to acknowledge the alumnus's contribution to the university. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough and impartial review of the candidate's examination, results against all established admission criteria, ensuring that the decision is based solely on merit and adherence to university policy, irrespective of external influence. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures. The university entrance exam is a critical gatekeeping mechanism, and any compromise to its fairness or validity can have significant repercussions on the institution's reputation and the future of its students. The pressure to admit a specific candidate, especially when linked to influential figures, requires careful navigation to uphold ethical standards and regulatory compliance. The correct approach involves a rigorous and impartial evaluation of all candidates based solely on the established entrance exam criteria. This upholds the principle of fairness and equal opportunity, which is a cornerstone of academic admissions. Specifically, adhering to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta's internal regulations for the entrance examination process, which likely emphasizes objective assessment and standardized procedures, is paramount. This ensures that the selection process is transparent, defensible, and free from undue influence, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the examination. An incorrect approach that involves prioritizing the candidate's connections over their performance would be a direct violation of academic meritocracy and potentially internal university policies governing admissions. This undermines the credibility of the entire selection process and creates a precedent for favoritism, which is ethically unsound and professionally damaging. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to subtly alter the examination or scoring to favor the candidate, constitutes academic misconduct and fraud. This not only breaches ethical codes, but also violates any explicit or implicit regulations that mandate honest and accurate assessment. Furthermore, ignoring the established evaluation criteria altogether and making an arbitrary decision based on external pressure would be a failure to adhere to the established control framework and would lack any justifiable basis, leading to potential challenges and reputational damage. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established rules and ethical principles. This involves 1. Clearly identifying the relevant university policies and examination guidelines. 2. Assessing the candidate's performance against these objective criteria without bias. 3. Documenting the entire evaluation process thoroughly. 4. Seeking guidance from superiors or relevant committees if faced with conflicting pressures or ambiguities. 5. Resisting any attempts to influence the process through non-academic means, ensuring that decisions are based on merit and established procedures. Question 9. Investigation of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam data handling process reveals a need to assess potential vulnerabilities. Which of the following approaches to risk assessment best aligns with the university's ethical obligations and regulatory expectations for safeguarding applicant information? Option A. A comprehensive risk assessment identifying potential threats to data integrity and applicant privacy, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and proposing specific mitigation strategies before full data processing begins. Option B. Relying on ad hoc security measures and informal data sharing practices among admissions staff to manage potential data risks. Option C. Prioritizing immediate and rapid processing of all applicant data to meet enrollment deadlines, with security checks to be implemented retrospectively. Option D. Conducting a theoretical risk assessment based on worst-case scenarios without concrete data or actionable mitigation plans, leading to significant delays in data utilization. The correct answer is A. A comprehensive risk assessment identifying potential threats to data integrity and applicant privacy, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and proposing specific mitigation strategies before full data processing begins. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate need for student enrollment data and the ethical obligation to protect applicant privacy and ensure data integrity. The entrance exam process, governed by AMIKOM University Yogyakarta's internal regulations and potentially broader Indonesian data protection principles, requires a careful balance. A risk assessment approach is crucial to identify potential harms and implement mitigation strategies. The correct approach involves a systematic risk assessment that prioritizes data security and applicant privacy. This means identifying potential threats to the data, e.g., unauthorized access, data breaches, misuse of information, evaluating the likelihood and impact of these threats, and then developing controls to minimize these risks. This aligns with the ethical responsibility to handle sensitive personal information with care and the regulatory expectation that educational institutions will safeguard applicant data. The process should involve clear protocols for data collection, storage, access, and disposal, ensuring compliance with AMIKOM internal policies and any applicable Indonesian data privacy laws. An approach that focuses solely on rapid data processing without considering security implications is ethically flawed because it disregards the potential for data breaches and misuse, which could harm applicants and damage the university's reputation. This failure to implement adequate safeguards violates the principle of data protection and could lead to regulatory penalties if specific Indonesian data privacy laws are contravened. An approach that delays data processing indefinitely due to hypothetical risks without attempting to quantify or mitigate them is professionally inefficient and hinders the university's operational needs. While caution is necessary, an overly cautious stance that paralyzes necessary processes is not a balanced risk management strategy. It fails to acknowledge that some level of risk is inherent in data handling and that effective risk management involves mitigation, not just avoidance. An approach that relies on informal data handling methods, such as sharing raw data via unsecured channels, is a direct violation of data security protocols and ethical best practices. This creates a high risk of unauthorized access and data leakage, exposing applicants to potential identity theft or other forms of harm, and failing to meet the standards expected of a reputable educational institution. Professionals should adopt a structured risk assessment framework. This involves clearly defining the scope of the assessment, identifying all potential risks, analyzing their likelihood and impact, evaluating existing controls, and developing and implementing new mitigation strategies. Regular review and updates to the risk assessment are also essential to adapt to evolving threats and regulatory landscapes. Question 10. Cost-benefit analysis shows that implementing a new, fully automated online proctoring system for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam could significantly reduce administrative costs and potentially speed up the evaluation process. However, concerns have been raised about the system's reliability and the potential for technical glitches to affect applicant performance. Considering the university's commitment to a fair and equitable admissions process, which of the following approaches best addresses the inherent risks? Option A. Implement the automated system, but require all applicants to sign waivers acknowledging the possibility of technical issues, thereby shifting the responsibility for system failures to the candidates. Option B. Conduct a pilot program with a limited number of applicants to thoroughly test the system's reliability and identify potential biases before a full rollout, while also developing contingency plans for technical failures. Option C. Reject the automated system outright due to the perceived risks, opting to continue with the current, more labor-intensive but familiar manual proctoring methods. Option D. Proceed with the automated system immediately to realize cost savings, assuming that any technical issues will be minor and manageable post-implementation. The correct answer is D. Proceed with the automated system immediately to realize cost savings, assuming that any technical issues will be minor and manageable post-implementation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the perceived benefits of a new initiative against its potential risks, all within the specific context of AMIKOM University Yogyakarta's entrance exam regulations. The core difficulty lies in accurately identifying and evaluating all relevant risks, not just those that are easily quantifiable, and ensuring that any decision aligns with the university's commitment to fair and transparent admissions processes, as implicitly guided by Indonesian higher education regulations concerning student selection. The correct approach involves a comprehensive risk assessment that goes beyond immediate financial or operational gains. It necessitates identifying potential risks to the integrity of the entrance exam, fairness to applicants, and the university's reputation. This includes considering risks such as data security breaches, algorithmic bias, or the exclusion of qualified candidates due to unforeseen technical issues. Such an approach is ethically sound and aligns with the principles of good governance in educational institutions, which prioritize equitable access and robust evaluation methods. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost savings without a thorough risk evaluation fails to uphold the university's responsibility to its applicants and the broader educational community. This could lead to decisions that, while appearing cost-effective in the short term, introduce significant risks of unfairness, legal challenges, or reputational damage, thereby violating ethical obligations to provide a fair selection process. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of implementation over a detailed risk assessment overlooks the potential for unintended consequences. This might involve rushing the adoption of a new system without adequate testing or validation, thereby increasing the likelihood of errors or biases that could disadvantage applicants. This disregards the ethical imperative to ensure that the admissions process is both efficient and equitable. A professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a multi-stakeholder consultation, including admissions officers, IT specialists, legal counsel, and potentially student representatives. A structured risk assessment framework should be employed, identifying potential risks, assessing their likelihood and impact, and developing mitigation strategies. The final decision should be based on a holistic evaluation of the cost-benefit analysis, with a strong emphasis on risk mitigation and adherence to ethical principles and regulatory guidelines governing university admissions in Indonesia. Question 11. Quality control measures reveal a pattern of unusual answer sheet submissions for a specific section of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam, suggesting potential irregularities. Which of the following is the most appropriate initial step to address this situation? Option A. Halt the entire examination process for all applicants until the specific submissions can be individually verified. Option B. Classify the findings as minor anomalies and proceed with the exam results without further investigation. Option C. Conduct a thorough risk assessment to identify the nature, likelihood, and potential impact of the irregularities and develop mitigation strategies. Option D. Immediately implement stricter invigilation protocols for all future exams without investigating the current incident. Correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough risk assessment to identify the nature, likelihood, and potential impact of the irregularities and develop mitigation strategies. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge in ensuring the integrity of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam process. The discovery of potential irregularities necessitates a careful and systematic approach to risk assessment to identify, analyze, and mitigate threats to the fairness and validity of the examination. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for thorough investigation with the imperative to maintain the confidence of applicants and the university in the examination's credibility. The correct approach involves a comprehensive risk assessment that systematically identifies potential vulnerabilities in the exam process, analyzes the likelihood and impact of these risks, and proposes appropriate mitigation strategies. This aligns with the principles of good governance and operational integrity expected in educational institutions, ensuring that the entrance examination is conducted fairly and transparently, in accordance with AMIKOM University's internal regulations and broader Indonesian educational standards. This proactive and structured method aims to prevent future occurrences and uphold the reputation of the university. An approach that focuses solely on immediate disciplinary action without a prior risk assessment fails to address the root causes of the irregularities. This reactive stance might punish individuals but does not prevent recurrence and overlooks systemic weaknesses. It also risks being perceived as arbitrary if not grounded in a thorough understanding of the risks involved. Another incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the findings as minor isolated incidents, demonstrates a lack of due diligence. This ignores the potential for such incidents to escalate or indicate deeper systemic issues within the examination process. It fails to uphold the university's responsibility to ensure a fair and equitable assessment for all applicants. A third incorrect approach, which is to immediately halt the entire examination process without a proper risk assessment, is an overreaction that can cause undue disruption and distress to a large number of applicants. While decisive action is sometimes necessary, it should be informed by a clear understanding of the risks and potential consequences, rather than being a knee-jerk reaction. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the problem, followed by a systematic risk assessment. This involves identifying potential threats, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and developing a prioritized plan for mitigation and response. Transparency and adherence to established university policies and ethical guidelines are paramount throughout this process. Question 12. When evaluating an applicant's submission for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam, if the applicant inadvertently includes a passage that closely resembles published work without proper citation, what is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action for the applicant to take? Option A. Immediately inform the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta Admissions Committee of the oversight and provide the correct citation or explanation. Option B. Consult with friends or online forums to find ways to obscure the copied material before submitting the application. Option C. Attempt to rephrase the passage to make it less similar without acknowledging the original source. Option D. Hope that the similarity is not detected by the admissions committee and proceed with the application as is. The correct answer is A. Immediately inform the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta Admissions Committee of the oversight and provide the correct citation or explanation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only academic readiness, but also an understanding of ethical conduct and adherence to university regulations, which are paramount for maintaining academic integrity and a positive learning environment. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate and ethically sound response when faced with a potential breach of academic honesty. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between minor oversights and deliberate misconduct, and to respond in a manner that upholds the university's values. The correct approach involves proactively and transparently reporting the potential plagiarism to the relevant university authority, such as the admissions committee or academic integrity office. This demonstrates honesty, integrity, and respect for AMIKOM University Yogyakarta's academic policies. By self-reporting, the applicant acknowledges the seriousness of academic misconduct and allows the university to address the situation fairly and according to its established procedures. This aligns with the ethical principle of honesty and the regulatory requirement to uphold academic standards, as typically outlined in university admission guidelines and academic integrity policies. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the potential plagiarism and hope it goes unnoticed. This is ethically unsound as it constitutes a deliberate omission of crucial information and a disregard for academic honesty. It violates the principle of truthfulness expected of all university applicants and students. Furthermore, it could be interpreted as an attempt to gain an unfair advantage, which is a direct contravention of academic integrity regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to attempt to downplay the significance of the copied material or to justify it as a minor error. This demonstrates a lack of understanding or a willingness to circumvent university rules. It fails to acknowledge the gravity of plagiarism as a serious academic offense and undermines the university's commitment to original work and intellectual property. Such a response would likely be viewed as deceptive and lacking in integrity. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to seek advice from peers or external sources on how to conceal the plagiarism or to manipulate the application. This not only indicates a lack of personal ethical compass, but also suggests an intent to deceive the university. Engaging in such actions would be a severe breach of trust and could lead to immediate disqualification from the admission process and potential future academic repercussions. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a commitment to honesty, transparency, and adherence to established rules and regulations. When faced with a potential ethical dilemma or a situation that might involve a breach of academic integrity, the professional course of action is to consult the relevant university policies and to report any concerns or potential issues directly to the appropriate university officials. This proactive and honest approach is the foundation of ethical conduct in academic and professional settings. Question 13. The evaluation methodology shows a consistent application of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam's official guidelines, ensuring all assessment criteria are predefined and objectively measurable according to the university's stated admission policies. Which of the following best describes the adherence to the regulatory framework for this entrance exam? Option A. The methodology incorporates elements from general best practices in higher education admissions, assuming they align with AMIKOM requirements. Option B. The methodology draws inspiration from evaluation techniques used by other prominent universities in Indonesia, adapting them to AMIKOM context. Option C. The methodology strictly follows the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam's specific regulatory framework, ensuring fairness and compliance. Option D. The methodology allows for some flexibility in interpretation of criteria based on the perceived potential of candidates, as long as the overall intent of the exam is met. The correct answer is C. The methodology strictly follows the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam's specific regulatory framework, ensuring fairness and compliance. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in the context of university entrance examinations, specifically at AMIKOM University, Yogyakarta. The core difficulty lies in ensuring that the evaluation methodology for prospective students is fair, transparent, and adheres strictly to the established regulatory framework, laws, and guidelines governing such examinations in Indonesia, as per the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exams jurisdiction. Misinterpreting or deviating from these guidelines can lead to accusations of bias, procedural unfairness, and ultimately, compromise the integrity of the admission process. Careful judgment is required to balance the university's need to select qualified candidates with the ethical obligation to provide an equitable assessment for all applicants. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding and strict application of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exams specific regulatory framework. This means that any evaluation methodology must be designed and implemented in direct alignment with the stated objectives and procedures outlined in the university's official entrance exam guidelines. This approach is correct because it upholds the principle of regulatory compliance, which is paramount in any formal examination process. It ensures that all candidates are assessed based on the same predefined criteria, thereby promoting fairness and preventing arbitrary decision-making. Adherence to these specific guidelines is not merely a procedural step, but an ethical imperative to maintain the credibility and legitimacy of the university's admissions. An incorrect approach would be to introduce subjective elements into the evaluation that are not explicitly permitted by the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exams regulatory framework. For instance, relying on personal impressions of a candidate's potential without a defined, objective measure, or giving undue weight to factors not specified in the official guidelines, constitutes a regulatory and ethical failure. This introduces bias and undermines the principle of equal opportunity. Another incorrect approach would be to adopt evaluation techniques from other institutions or general best practices without verifying their compatibility with AMIKOM-specific rules. This violates the strict jurisdiction requirement and could lead to the invalidation of the assessment. Professionals involved in designing and implementing university entrance exams should adopt a decision-making framework that prioritizes a deep understanding of the specific regulatory environment. This involves 1. Identifying and thoroughly reviewing all relevant laws, regulations, and guidelines pertaining to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam. 2. Designing evaluation methodologies that are explicitly derived from and demonstrably compliant with these specific rules. 3. Implementing a robust internal review process to ensure that all evaluation procedures strictly adhere to the established framework. 4. Establishing clear channels for addressing any ambiguities or potential deviations from the guidelines. This systematic and jurisdiction-specific approach ensures fairness, transparency, and the integrity of the examination process. Question 14. Analysis of a scenario where an admissions officer for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam receives an unsolicited email from a prominent alumnus recommending a specific candidate, mentioning the candidate's family's significant financial contributions to the university. The admissions officer is aware that this candidate's academic profile, based solely on submitted transcripts and preliminary assessments, is borderline for admission. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions officer to ensure the integrity of the entrance exam process? Option A. Discreetly adjust the scoring of the candidate's entrance exam to ensure they meet the minimum admission threshold, citing the alumnus's recommendation as a factor in demonstrating potential. Option B. Forward the email to the admissions committee, highlighting the alumnus's recommendation and the family's financial contributions, suggesting that these factors be given significant weight in the candidate's evaluation to foster goodwill with major donors. Option C. Inform the alumnus that the candidate's academic profile is borderline and suggest that the family consider making a substantial donation to the university to improve the candidate's chances of admission. Option D. Acknowledge the email, thank the alumnus for their input, but proceed with the evaluation of the candidate strictly based on the official entrance exam criteria and submitted academic records, without any special consideration due to the alumnus's recommendation or mention of financial contributions. The correct answer is D. Acknowledge the email, thank the alumnus for their input, but proceed with the evaluation of the candidate strictly based on the official entrance exam criteria and submitted academic records, without any special consideration due to the alumnus's recommendation or mention of financial contributions. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge in the context of university admissions, specifically for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam. The challenge lies in balancing the university's stated commitment to meritocracy and fairness with the practical realities of candidate assessment, particularly when dealing with information that could be perceived as influencing the evaluation process. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the integrity of the entrance exam process is maintained, upholding both internal university policies and broader ethical standards of academic selection. The correct approach involves a commitment to the established, transparent, and objective criteria for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam. This means adhering strictly to the published syllabus, assessment methods, and scoring rubrics. Any information that could be construed as providing an unfair advantage or disadvantage to a candidate outside of these defined parameters must be disregarded or handled through formal, documented channels that ensure equity for all applicants. This approach is justified by the university's regulatory framework, which mandates fair and equal opportunity for all prospective students. Ethical considerations also demand impartiality and the avoidance of any perception of favoritism or bias. An incorrect approach would be to consider or act upon informal information about a candidate's background or connections that is not part of the official admission criteria. This could involve giving undue weight to a recommendation not formally solicited by the university or overlooking a deficiency based on personal acquaintance. Such actions would violate the university's commitment to a merit-based selection process and could lead to accusations of unfairness or corruption, undermining the credibility of the entrance exam and the institution. Another incorrect approach would be to deviate from the established examination procedures, such as altering the difficulty of questions for a specific candidate or providing them with advanced knowledge of the test content. This directly contravenes the principles of standardized assessment and equal opportunity. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exams admission regulations and ethical guidelines. When faced with information that might influence an admission decision outside of these established criteria, a professional should: 1. Identify the relevant university policies and exam regulations. 2. Assess whether the information in question falls within the defined admission criteria. 3. If it does not, or if it suggests potential bias, consult with the designated admissions committee or relevant authority for guidance. 4. Document all decisions and the rationale behind them to ensure transparency and accountability. The paramount principle is to uphold the integrity and fairness of the selection process for all applicants. Question 15. Compliance review shows that an applicant for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam has submitted an application with a strong academic record from their previous institution. However, the university's entrance exam regulations do not explicitly state how to weigh or consider prior academic achievements in the context of the standardized entrance examination. The admissions committee is tasked with determining the applicant's eligibility. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the regulatory framework for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam? Option A. Evaluate the applicant's eligibility strictly based on their performance in the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam and the fulfillment of all other mandatory application requirements as stipulated in the exam regulations, without giving undue weight to their prior academic record. Option B. Consult with senior faculty members outside the admissions committee for their informal opinions on the applicant's potential based on their previous academic achievements. Option C. Grant the applicant preferential consideration for admission due to their strong prior academic record, assuming it indicates a high likelihood of success in AMIKOM programs. Option D. Adjust the scoring criteria of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam for this applicant to better reflect their perceived strengths from their previous academic background. The correct answer is A. Evaluate the applicant's eligibility strictly based on their performance in the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam and the fulfillment of all other mandatory application requirements as stipulated in the exam regulations, without giving undue weight to their prior academic record. Explanation: This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to provide a fair and transparent admissions process. The admissions committee must adhere strictly to the established guidelines for the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated consistently and without bias. The core of the challenge lies in interpreting and applying these guidelines in a situation where an applicant's prior academic record might be perceived as an advantage. But the exam itself is designed to be a standardized measure of aptitude for AMIKOM programs. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's submitted documents against the specific criteria outlined in the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations. This means verifying that all required documentation is present and accurate, and then assessing the applicant's eligibility based solely on the parameters set by the exam. The regulatory justification for this approach is rooted in the principle of equal opportunity and standardized assessment, which are fundamental to fair university admissions. The AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations are designed to create a level playing field, and any deviation from these established criteria would undermine the validity and fairness of the entire admissions process. Adhering to the regulations ensures that all applicants are judged by the same standards, preventing potential accusations of favoritism or discrimination. An incorrect approach would be to make an assumption about the applicant's readiness based on their previous academic performance without a direct mandate from the exam regulations to do so. This bypasses the standardized testing mechanism that the entrance exam represents. The regulatory failure here is a disregard for the explicit procedures and criteria established for the entrance exam. Another incorrect approach would be to seek external opinions or informal advice from faculty members not directly involved in the admissions committee's decision-making process regarding this specific applicant's eligibility. This introduces potential bias and deviates from the established protocol for evaluating applications, violating the principle of a structured and documented decision-making process as defined by the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam guidelines. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic review of the relevant university entrance exam regulations. When faced with an ambiguous or unusual application, the first step is to consult the official documentation to understand the prescribed procedures and criteria. If the regulations are unclear, the appropriate action is to seek clarification from the designated authority within the university responsible for admissions policy, rather than making ad hoc decisions or seeking informal opinions. The focus must always remain on adhering to the established framework to ensure fairness, transparency, and the integrity of the admissions process. Question 16. Strategic planning requires a careful balancing act between the aspirational goals of AMIKOM University Yogyakarta and the strict adherence to its established entrance examination regulatory framework. Considering this, which approach best ensures the entrance examination effectively serves both the university's strategic vision for student selection and its commitment to fair and compliant admissions as dictated by the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations? Option A. Developing an entrance examination that incorporates innovative assessment methods inspired by leading international universities, assuming these will automatically enhance the quality of candidate selection for AMIKOM. Option B. Designing an entrance examination that is primarily driven by the perceived marketability and ease of administration, with minimal consideration for the specific stipulations within the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulatory framework. Option C. Formulating a strategic plan for the entrance examination that meticulously integrates the objectives and requirements outlined in the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulatory framework, ensuring all assessment components and evaluation criteria directly support AMIKOM-defined admission goals. Option D. Prioritizing the creation of an examination that is challenging enough to deter less motivated applicants. Without a detailed review of whether the difficulty level or content aligns with the specific competencies AMIKOM aims to assess through its regulated entrance process. Correct answer is A. Developing an entrance examination that incorporates innovative assessment methods inspired by leading international universities, assuming these will automatically enhance the quality of candidate selection for AMIKOM. Explanation. The The scenario presents a challenge in aligning a university's strategic vision with the practicalities of its entrance examination process, specifically concerning the adherence to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulatory framework. The core difficulty lies in ensuring that the examination design and implementation not only reflect the university's academic goals, but also strictly comply with the established rules and guidelines for admissions, without introducing biases or compromising fairness. This requires a nuanced understanding of the regulatory framework, which dictates the scope, format, and evaluation criteria of the entrance exam. The correct approach involves a thorough review and integration of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulatory framework into the strategic planning for the entrance examination. This means understanding the specific objectives outlined in the framework, such as assessing foundational knowledge in relevant fields, evaluating critical thinking skills, or identifying candidates with leadership potential, as defined by AMIKOM. The strategic plan must then translate these objectives into concrete examination components and assessment methods that are explicitly permitted and guided by the regulations. This ensures that the examination is not only effective in selecting suitable candidates, but also legally and ethically sound according to AMIKOM's own admission policies. An incorrect approach that prioritizes external best practices without rigorous alignment with the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulatory framework is professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the specific legal and institutional context of AMIKOM. For instance, adopting a generic international admissions testing model might overlook unique Indonesian educational standards or AMIKOM-specific program requirements as stipulated in its entrance exam guidelines. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on perceived candidate appeal or marketability of the exam, without grounding in the regulatory framework, risks creating an examination that is either non-compliant or fails to accurately assess the competencies AMIKOM seeks. This could lead to legal challenges, reputational damage, and the admission of unqualified students, undermining the integrity of the university selection process. Professionals tasked with this strategic planning should employ a decision-making process that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulatory framework. This framework serves as the primary constraint and guide. Subsequently, they should identify the university's strategic academic goals for admissions. The next step is to brainstorm and evaluate potential examination strategies, always cross-referencing them against the regulatory requirements. This iterative process ensures that all proposed strategies are not only aligned with academic objectives, but also fully compliant with the established rules, thereby guaranteeing fairness, validity, and institutional integrity. Question 17. Research into the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam process reveals a scenario where you are seated next to another candidate who is visibly struggling and appears to be attempting to glance at your answer sheet. You are confident in your own answers and are nearing the end of the exam. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action? Option A. Discreetly inform the invigilator about the other candidate's actions without drawing attention. Option B. Continue with your exam and ignore the other candidate's behavior, focusing solely on your own work. Option C. Quietly pass a note to the other candidate with a few answers you are sure of. Option D. Offer a subtle hint or a glance at your answer sheet to help the struggling candidate. The correct answer is A. Discreetly inform the invigilator about the other candidate's actions without drawing attention. Explanation. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma common in academic settings, particularly during competitive entrance exams. The challenge lies in balancing the integrity of the examination process with the desire to assist a fellow student who is struggling. The university's reputation and the fairness of the selection process are at stake. Candidates' decision must uphold the principles of academic honesty and adhere to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations. The correct approach involves prioritizing academic integrity and the rules of the examination. This means refraining from providing any assistance that could be construed as cheating or giving an unfair advantage. The AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations, by their nature, mandate a fair and impartial assessment of all candidates. Providing answers or hints to another candidate directly violates this principle, undermining the validity of the exam and the admission process. Ethically, it is a breach of trust and fairness. An incorrect approach would be to share answers or hints. This action directly contravenes the explicit or implicit rules of any university entrance exam, which are designed to ensure a level playing field. Such behavior constitutes academic dishonesty, which can lead to severe penalties, including disqualification from the exam and potential blacklisting from future admissions. It also erodes the trust placed in candidates to act with integrity. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the situation entirely without considering the implications. While not actively cheating, a passive stance in the face of observed misconduct can be seen as enabling it. The ethical responsibility extends to upholding the integrity of the environment. A professional decision-making process in such a situation involves 1. Recognizing the ethical conflict, the desire to help versus the obligation to uphold exam rules. 2. Consulting the rules, familiarizing oneself with the specific regulations of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regarding academic misconduct and candidate responsibilities. 3. Prioritizing integrity, understanding that the long-term consequences of compromised exam integrity outweigh any short-term perceived benefit of helping another candidate. 4. Taking appropriate action. This might involve discreetly informing a proctor or invigilator if the misconduct is significant and observable, or simply ensuring one's own adherence to the rules and not engaging with the misconduct. 5. Self-reflection, considering how to prevent such situations in the future and reinforcing personal commitment to ethical conduct. Question 18. Benchmark analysis indicates that the integrity of university admissions processes is paramount. As a member of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta Entrance Exam Admissions Committee, you are reviewing an application from a candidate whose parents are influential figures within the local community and have expressed a strong desire for their child's admission. While the candidate's academic record is satisfactory but not exceptional, and their extracurricular involvement is moderate, the parents have offered to make a significant donation to the university. How should you proceed to uphold the ethical standards and regulatory framework of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam? Option A. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on the established academic and non-academic criteria outlined in the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations, ensuring impartiality and transparency, and disregard any offers of donations or familial influence. Option B. Lightly inform the parents that their child's application will be reviewed according to standard procedures, but privately advocate for their child's admission to the committee, highlighting their family's potential contributions. Option C. Consider the potential benefits of the parent's donation to the university and subtly factor this into the admission decision, ensuring the applicant meets the minimum academic requirements. Option D. Decline the application immediately, citing the potential for conflict of interest due to the parent's prominence and their offer of a donation, to avoid any perception of impropriety. The correct answer is A. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on the established academic and non-academic criteria outlined in the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations, ensuring impartiality and transparency, and disregard any offers of donations or familial influence. Explanation. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma common in academic settings, specifically concerning the integrity of the admissions process. The challenge lies in balancing the university's commitment to fair and merit-based admissions with the potential for undue influence or favoritism. A candidate's family connections, while potentially offering valuable insights into their character or potential, should not override established academic criteria. The university's reputation and the fairness to other applicants are at stake. The correct approach involves a commitment to the established admission criteria and a transparent process. This means evaluating the applicant solely based on the documented requirements and the information provided through the standard application channels. Any deviation from this, such as granting preferential treatment due to family connections, would violate principles of fairness and meritocracy, which are foundational to academic integrity. Specifically, this aligns with the ethical guidelines of academic institutions that emphasize impartiality and equal opportunity for all applicants. The AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations would likely stipulate adherence to objective evaluation standards, ensuring that all candidates are assessed on the same basis. An incorrect approach would be to allow the family's influence to sway the admission decision. This could manifest as overlooking deficiencies in the applicant's academic record or extracurricular achievements that would normally disqualify them. Such an action would be ethically unsound, as it undermines the principle of equal opportunity and could lead to the admission of less qualified candidates, thereby compromising the academic standards of AMIKOM University. This also creates a precedent for future undue influence, eroding trust in the admissions process. Furthermore, it could be seen as a breach of the university's stated admission policies, which are designed to ensure a fair selection. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the applicant outright solely because of their family's prominence, fearing potential complications. While caution is warranted, outright dismissal without a fair evaluation based on merit would be discriminatory and unfair. The applicant deserves to be assessed according to the same standards as all other candidates. A professional reasoning process for such a situation should involve a clear understanding and strict adherence to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations and ethical codes. When faced with a situation where external factors might influence a decision, the professional should 1. Reaffirm the established criteria and procedures for admission. 2. Evaluate the applicant strictly against these criteria, documenting all assessments. 3. If concerns arise regarding potential influence, consult with the admissions committee or relevant university authorities to ensure the process remains impartial and transparent. 4. Prioritize fairness, integrity, and the long-term reputation of the institution. Question 19. Comparative studies suggest that while personal networks can be influential, the integrity of university admissions processes is paramount. Imagine you are an admissions officer at AMIKOM University Yogyakarta. A highly influential alumnus who is also a close friend of your family contacts you directly. They are advocating strongly for their child's admission, mentioning their significant financial contributions to the university and hinting at potential future donations if their child is accepted, despite the child's entrance exam scores being slightly below the typical threshold for the program. How should you proceed to uphold the ethical and regulatory standards of AMIKOM University Yogyakarta's entrance exam? Option A. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on the established academic criteria and entrance exam scores, ensuring all university admission policies are followed without exception, and politely inform the alumnus that the decision will be based solely on merit and adherence to university regulations. Option B. Inform the alumnus that their child's application is unlikely to be successful due to the lower entrance exam scores and advise them to consider other universities, without further discussion of the potential influence or donations. Option C. Forward the alumnus's request directly to the rector's office, suggesting that they make the final decision due to the sensitive nature of the relationship and the potential for future donations. Option D. Consider the alumnus's influence and past contributions as significant factors, potentially allowing for a slightly more lenient interpretation of the entrance exam score requirements to ensure their child's admission. The correct answer is A. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on the established academic criteria and entrance exam scores, ensuring all university admission policies are followed without exception, and politely inform the alumnus that the decision will be based solely on merit and adherence to university regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma common in academic settings, specifically concerning the integrity of the admissions process. The challenge lies in balancing the university's commitment to fair and merit-based admissions with the potential for undue influence or favoritism. A candidate's family connections, while potentially offering advantages in other contexts, should not compromise the objective evaluation of their academic qualifications and suitability for AMIKOM University Yogyakarta. The correct approach involves adhering strictly to the established admission criteria and evaluation procedures. This means assessing the applicant solely on their academic record, entrance exam performance, and any other objective measures outlined in the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam guidelines. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant as it upholds principles of fairness, transparency, and equal opportunity, preventing any perception of bias or corruption. It aligns with the university's responsibility to maintain academic standards and the credibility of its admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to allow the family's influence to sway the admission decision. This could manifest as overlooking deficiencies in the applicant's qualifications, or giving them preferential treatment not afforded to other candidates. Such actions would violate ethical principles of impartiality and fairness. Furthermore, it could contravene specific regulations or internal policies of AMIKOM University Yogyakarta that govern admissions, potentially leading to disciplinary action, reputational damage, and undermining the trust placed in the university's selection process. Another incorrect approach would be to outright reject the applicant solely based on the family's perceived influence, without a fair evaluation of their merits. This would be discriminatory and also fail to uphold the university's commitment to evaluating all candidates objectively. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established policies and ethical guidelines. This involves 1. Identifying the core ethical principles at play: fairness, integrity, impartiality. 2. Consulting relevant university regulations and admission criteria. 3. Objectively evaluating the candidate based on these criteria, irrespective of external pressures. 4. Documenting the decision-making process to ensure transparency and accountability. 5. Seeking guidance from superiors or ethics committees if faced with complex or ambiguous situations. Question 20. Market research demonstrates that prospective students often seek perceived advantages in university admissions. Imagine you are part of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta Entrance Exam Admissions Committee. You are reviewing an application from a student who, while meeting the minimum academic requirements, has a family member who is a prominent alumnus. This alumnus has expressed a strong desire for this applicant to be admitted and has indirectly suggested that their support could be beneficial to the university. How should you proceed to ensure the integrity of the admission process? Option A. Discuss the applicant's case with the admissions committee, highlighting the family's influential position and suggesting a favorable review to maintain good relations with the alumnus. Option B. Consider the applicant's potential future contributions to the university, influenced by their family's legacy, and give them a slight advantage in the evaluation process. Option C. Recommend the applicant for admission based on their potential to leverage their family's network for the university's benefit, even if their academic scores are only marginally above the threshold. Option D. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on the established academic criteria and admission guidelines of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam, disregarding any external influence or familial connections. The correct answer is D. Evaluate the applicant strictly based on the established academic criteria and admission guidelines of the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam, disregarding any external influence or familial connections. Explanation: this scenario presents an ethical dilemma common in university admissions, particularly when faced with competitive applicant pools and the desire to maintain institutional reputation. The challenge lies in balancing the university's commitment to fair and merit-based selection with the potential influence of external factors or perceived advantages. AMIKOM University Yogyakarta, like any academic institution, must adhere to its own internal admission policies and ethical guidelines, which are paramount in ensuring fairness and integrity. The correct approach involves a rigorous and objective evaluation of all candidates based solely on the established admission criteria. This means prioritizing academic merit, relevant skills, and potential for success as defined by the university's official selection process. This approach aligns with the ethical principles of fairness, transparency, and equal opportunity, which are fundamental to academic integrity and the trust placed in the university by prospective students and the wider community. Adhering strictly to the AMIKOM University Yogyakarta entrance exam regulations ensures that decisions are defensible and free from bias. An incorrect approach would be to allow external pressures or perceived advantages to influence the admission decision. For instance, prioritizing a candidate simply because they have connections or a perceived easier path to success without a thorough assessment of their qualifications against the established criteria violates the principle of meritocracy. This can lead to accusations of favoritism and undermine the credibility of the admission process. Another incorrect approach would be to deviate from the established scoring or evaluation rubric, even with the intention of helping a candidate who might otherwise be borderline. Such deviations introduce subjectivity and can be seen as a breach of the university's own admission regulations, potentially leading to unfair outcomes for other applicants. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that emphasizes adherence to established policies and ethical codes. This involves 1. Clearly understanding and applying the university's admission criteria and procedures. 2. Maintaining objectivity and impartiality throughout the evaluation process. 3. Documenting all decisions and the rationale behind them. 4. Seeking guidance from supervisors or ethics committees when faced with ambiguous situations or potential conflicts of interest. 5. Prioritizing the integrity and fairness of the admission process above all else.